Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I have two wonderful people on Zoom with me. But first, let me introduce Jessie Sparrow. Hey, Jessie.
Hi, Jeff. How are you today?
I'm good. All right, so you are here to talk about RE.IMAGINE ATL. And actually, should I say Atlanta or ATL?
It's actually RE.IMAGINE ATL, but it does stand for Atlanta. Yeah.
Whew, I got lucky on that. I was supposed to check first. And for those of you listening who are regular listeners of the Discover Indie Film podcast, you'll know that I generally interview filmmakers who are on the festival circuit, particularly those who have been at the film festivals that I run. But I got an email about RE.IMAGINE ATL, and it piqued my interest a bit. And frequent Discover Indie Film guest, Fr3deR1cK Taylor, is Atlanta-based, and definitely anyone who's listened to us talk for 1 to 7 hours knows that we're publicly concerned. I don't know how to say it. We appreciate people like Jessie who are doing things to try to improve their communities and whatnot. So I figured, okay, even though this isn't about a film, it's about something film-related that's interesting, and it's Atlanta-based. And sadly, I've been all around the world several times. I have never been outside the Atlanta airport. So I felt like, since this is Atlanta-focused, I hit Fred up to be my co-host. So this is actually the first time Discover Indie Film finally has a co-host, which, I don't know, feels like a big step for me. So I have now introduced Fred. I've introduced Jessie. And I should just throw it to you, Jessie. Do you want to just tell us the background of RE.IMAGINE ATL and what it's about for those who haven't read an email from someone?
Yeah, sure. So we were actually founded 11 years ago, back in 2014, by Atlanta native Susanna Spisha. She noticed that even though our neighborhoods are really close together in Atlanta, that youth tended not to go out of their own neighborhoods, and so everyone was kind of living in their own bubble, and really thought it would be a great idea to bring youth and youth voices together through creativity. So what she started way back when eventually turned into a workforce development nonprofit. And so today we work with 11 to 24-year-olds all throughout Metro Atlanta, and we do career exposure, training, and job placement for film and digital media.
And so that those age groups, you're dealing with people sounds like from middle school to high school to community college, and just people not in school any longer, because you said all the way to 24.
Yeah, definitely. So even though we serve usually 11 to 24-year-olds, we have worked last year even with as young as 7-year-olds in after-school centers. So we really tried to start at a formative age, that middle school age where folks start to feel out who they are and what they're interested in, and do career exposure, and just letting youth know all of the different possibilities in film and digital media. And from there, we start to do hands-on training with high school students, and then those who are underemployed or not in college full-time, those folks who just haven't had the opportunities that maybe others have, we work with them and do really in-depth training, not just technical training, but leadership development and that sort of thing. And we work to get them placed in entry-level positions and internships.
And it sounds like it started with community outreach, bringing communities together. But then, and you said it, yeah, so it started that long ago. So a topic I'll not make a big deal about is, of course, Atlanta has been gaining jobs, I'll say. I won't say stealing jobs from LA. But everyone who lives in LA feels that way. But not me. What am I going to say? So did the film industry thing happen more recently, or was that part of it from the beginning?
It's kind of been an evolution since the beginning. I mean, back in 2015, they started their first summer camp where they were creating music videos with local artists. And then from there, we started a no-co film. It's called No-Co or No Comment because the youth were feeling like their voices weren't being heard and wanted a space where they could be heard. And so we started a film fellowship around that. And then we started, we had an outcry from youth saying, hey, I want to delve deeper into skills. So maybe I've been on YouTube and university and learning how to do post-production or something of that nature. But like, I really want to learn. I want to have that education I might get in post-secondary school, but maybe I don't have the opportunity. So we started with apprenticeships and we do we do sound design, animation, social media, and post-production apprenticeship tracks.
Those are very carefully chosen, I think.
They are. Yes.
Because a lot of the people I know who have left Los Angeles for the Georgia, Tennessee sort of area, a lot is post-production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's based off of what we're seeing in the marketplace and here in Georgia, and also what we're hearing from youth, because we definitely want to incorporate that youth voice in everything that we're doing. We even have a half youth-led team. So whatever programs we're working on, we make sure that yes, we want to look at what are the job opportunities out there and what is the market looking for, but we also want to make sure that we are staying close to that original passion for that youth creative voice and what they're interested in.
And the young people are cool with the fact, because it sounds like it was a bit focused on their creativity, but then it turns to very practical. Like, are young people in the area aware of the burgeoning growth of entertainment industry jobs, and like, are kids in high school thinking, hey, I should learn how to do gunshot effects and then try to get a job on Walking Dead or something like that? Like, is that like, are the young people aware of what's going on industry-wise, I guess, is my question.
Well, definitely the college age youth are. I see that. But that's why we're starting with middle school and high school and that career exposure piece, going into the schools, with district-wide contracts and working to show not just, youth, but also the educators in the schools, the parents, that, hey, there are viable career paths. Even if you think about something like sports, right? We've got the Atlanta Hawks right here. We've got soccer coming to Atlanta, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And so oftentimes people think, oh, sports, but it's not just a game, it's a whole production. And so all of those jobs behind the scenes, capturing the footage of each game and the pregame and the postgame, there's so many different opportunities if you want to be a creative to step in.
Fred, how does that strike you? Because I know you deal with a lot of young people in the Atlanta area, right? Just with Tomorrow Pictures.
I do. We've had a long history of hiring and teaching and mentoring and employing people in the Atlanta marketplace. Of a lot of different backgrounds, things like that, from different areas of the city. And even internationally, like we have a pipeline where we bring people in from other countries, as far away as Argentina and Germany and Romania as well. It's one of the strengths of the Atlanta market is their ability to be able to create inroads or places where young people can enthusiastically create opportunities for themselves. I mean, that's how I came up in the Atlanta marketplace. I was once very young, long ago, and I was at Georgia State. And, I did several internships while I was still in school. That was a very common thing that you did to figure out a way to get placed in the industry. Now you have organizations like Jessie's that, live outside of the university system that are able to place people, which I find to be very exciting as well. And then a commitment to, some of the other underserved communities, I think, is critical too. I think, one of the things I'm just sort of curious as people move forward, there's different kids have different needs, and different kids have different desires and things like that as well. There, in long ago, before any of us were even in the business, there was a film business in Atlanta for years, and the moment that it really had been launched was in 1939. With the opening of Gone with the Wind, which was in Atlanta, and then there was a long history of making films in Atlanta. Dating all the way back to the 60s and the 70s and things like that. Burt Reynolds made a lot of movies in Georgia. Kim Basinger who was from Georgia, went to the University of Georgia, had tried to build a studio in Brazelton, Georgia. Burt Reynolds had tried to build one down at Lakewood Studios, south of the city as well. So there's always been these like starts and reboots of trying to build an industry. There was a huge influx of people in the post civil rights era that came into the industry in the 70s and stuff like that. And ironically, the sports was one of their points of entry. Because major sporting teams came to Atlanta in the 60s, specifically the Braves and the Falcons and the Hawks, and they created a whole other ecosystem. And within that ecosystem, it was all automatically diverse. So it was a really good point of entry for some of the marginalized communities to find their way into jobs. There's this old joke from an old black man that I know in Atlanta that's still around and things like that. And he says, yeah, when you're watching a Braves game, that center field camera right over the pitcher's shoulder, that was always a black guy holding that camera. He says like a joke. It's funny, but the center field camera for the Braves is, and I've actually had several friends who are of color that have worked that job for the Braves as well. But the point is that there are windows of opportunity. My only question, Jesse, is as the industry continues to grow, and it not only diversifies with people along the lines of culture and gender and things like that, but also just sort of taste. I do notice that a lot of the younger people are really into post, and they're not really into production. And that is one thing that has changed. When I was young, 18, 19, 20, 21, I loved being on set. I loved being in production. I loved setting up lights. I loved running cable. I loved throwing around sandbags and all that other stuff, and being around the director and the director of photography and the AD and things like that. That is not as much the case now. And for me, as someone who still works in production, at times I struggle with some of the younger kids on set. And I find that to be a bit of a challenge, because it is work. It's work. It's real work. It's not, it's not sitting in front of a computer. It's lifting and toting and, being really mindful of what you're doing. And so like some of the things like, getting on their phone or being distracted, and, they socialize a lot within their own sort of, I guess, age appropriate space. When I was coming along, we talked a lot to the older people. We spent a lot of time around people. That I remember being around a guy named Hank Garfield, who was the sound man from Hill Street Blues. And, I just literally thought he was the oldest man in the world. And, and he had great advice for me in learning, because older people know because they've done it, And then he kept telling me the importance of taking 1 teaspoon of Metamucil every day too. Like that was important. So he would the value of the wealth of knowledge that is there.
Mentors come in all forms.
Exactly.
But it actually it sounds like, because RE.IMAGINE ATL has a program. Part of your program is helping, like, first you train kids and then you help place them. Mm-hmm. Like, how does a company, like if Fred finds that some young people show up and they're like, I don't really want to work. I'm just here to kick it and eat a little craft service and, see if I can buddy up with somebody, see if somebody here is as cool as I am. I have now just projected the worst image possible on these people. I hope it sounds like I'm joking.
It's not you're not projecting. I mean, it's just with all, of these dynamics within our business, there are there are other kids that I consider them elite, and I consider them bordering on genius, and I want the best for them. And then, of course, I've got the kids that are hanging out with craft service, and they're looking for who they can just kind of latch onto. And I have kids that come through my ecosystem, and they want to go be PAs. They want to go be PAs, make $250 a day, just working for somebody else and getting their coffee. And then maybe they get to go live in New York or something. Like, they have other lifestyle choices. We lived in caves and ate dirt when we were kids, just to be on set.
Yeah, but the dirt was good back then.
And we loved learning the craft. And it was, and I'm not saying that they don't now, but some of the kids have other types of priorities in their lives.
Well, I'm trying to set up Jessie to say that their program might weed those kids out, maybe. Like obviously, to make it through your training program, a kid can't be one of the if a kid is unimpressive, I assume they probably don't make it through the program?
Yeah.
Or if they're not dedicated to work, I guess is what I think.
Exactly. So we make it really clear in the beginning, because our programs are free, and we want to make sure that, they're going to people who are really going to benefit from them, right? It's a really amazing resource. And so part of our intake process, if you will, is really interviewing folks to see what is your passion level? Are you ready to stick with it? Because our programs are pretty lengthy. They for our apprenticeships, they're 2 10-week cohorts. And for filmmaking fellowship, it's all summer long. And they're not just meeting in the summer filmmaking fellowship. They're not just meeting for like an hour. They're meeting all day for several days. And so we're really trying to prepare them to step on set and be ready to be with those professionals. And by the end of it, they are. We have our own production arm where we do services for clients. And we've worked with people like Microsoft, NBC Universal, Warner Brothers, also different nonprofits like the Zeist Foundation, City of Refuge. And so we're trying to prepare folks based on what their interest is to be ready to step into the workforce. And so I remember, I think it was last year, we had a gentleman who went through our training the year before and thought, I kind of like being a PA, but wasn't really sure about exactly what he wanted to do, and ended up being on set. We needed a hand with gaffing that day, and so we had the professional, but he needed somebody to kind of direct and help set up. And our student just kind of fell in love. He said, I never knew that I was going to be this into lighting, but now this is all I want to do. And so now he's moved on, and that's what he's doing in life. But that's kind of the process, is because this is really in depth, and because it's a free resource, we're really trying to find those folks who have that grit, who have that passion, who are going to stick with the programs and really utilize it to, be a catalyst to get them into the next step of their career.
I think that's terrific. I mean, I think that the word you used was grit, and, the film business is grit.
Yeah.
And some people kind of come into it and they don't realize that until they get in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
I like to tell them all the time, well, you don't sign up for the Army and think that you never might not be shot.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to deal with the gravity of the choice.
Yeah. Well, and you brought up something else that's really important to us, and that's mentorship. So once we get to that, workforce development age, it's really important for us to pair students one-on-one with a mentor for 6 months, as a sounding board. Hey, I've started to develop my portfolio, and these are the classes I'm going to, but I'm really nervous about getting in front of an interview with someone, and how do I prepare myself, or whatever that situation is, just to have someone that they can reach out to who has been there and done that and can relate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's critical in moving the business forward, and the survivability of the industry is, as well as, there is external forces at work that are sort of, deliberately and consciously reshaping and remolding how this business works, and what the messaging is, and who delivers the message, and who participates in it. And, times they're a little tough right now. Beyond just, people migrating from LA to Atlanta. I mean, that's one particular issue. But on top of that, from the corporate entities down, they're really focusing on realigning the message that's being put out there too. And where, a lot of this media is critical mass, and you have young people they just want a job. They just want to work in the system and they're happy, and that's great. And then you have other, young people who have vision.
Yeah.
And they really have something to say. I have a young person in my office who is transgender, and they have vision. They have a real purpose. And part of the mentorship with this particular individual is getting them to understand navigating the system in a way of knowing how to downshift, when to get off the gas, when to get on the gas, when to be assertive and, state your position and your feelings. And then other times when to not read into it too much and to continue to move forward. That's really important too. And so for me as a mentor, and I hate to say these things, but they're real. And, when I first got in this business, there was a pervasive belief in the Atlanta market that Black people could not work in the camera department. And I was told that to my face on my first day on set, that Black people do not have the mental acuity to be camera people. Okay, so I had to eat that, because my choices were get mad and lose my gig or eat that. And this is one of the things that I say to a lot of the younger people, especially the young women and the other people of color and the other people that are in the LGBTQ community. I'm like, I am so sorry. Around me, in my world, that will never happen, but I cannot guarantee you that outside of this space. And you have to learn how to navigate that. And that's something that never goes away. I still walk into meetings and people do not believe I'm the director. They think I'm the Uber guy, and that's just, but there's a point where you just you got to deal. This is the reality of what is going on. And are you going to meet the moment and accomplish your goals, or are you going to start fighting? And you're just going to get distracted and you're going to lose the war because you feel like you bypassed a particular battle. So those are some of the other things that I have to impart on some of the younger people that don't have the inherent built-in privilege. And then some of them do. Some of them, I had a kid that walked into my office last year and he was rich. His family's rich, where they have a summer home up in Hyannisport. That's how rich this kid is. And he's from Atlanta. So, he doesn't have to try. His parents, got him into NYU, even though he didn't have the skill set or the grades to do it. But he's still at NYU.
Yeah.
So he's got his road paved. But then he's in an office with a bunch of some of the other kids, and they don't have that type of advantage, but I've got to treat everybody's equal.
Yeah, Jessie, so some of the stuff Fred's talking about, I assume because you have the training programs and then also mentorships, even at the training program level, obviously your age range is so vast with RE.IMAGINE ATL. But once they're old enough to drive a car, at the training level, do you say, look, when you get into a workplace, even though it sounds like you are, obviously, if you're placing them, that you're probably placing them with in a position where they're not going to be told, by the way, based upon your racial background, you're never going to be in that department. But do kids get warnings about some of the uglier things that they're going to face?
Yeah, definitely. We try to set people up in various different ways. So, one, going back to those mentors, these are mentors with similar lived experiences who have felt those same things, who are saying, here's what I've experienced. And so oftentimes what I hear from the mentor is, I'm so glad that I get to be a part of this because I never had this myself. And I had to, go through all of those hoops and ladders. And so they're just really grateful to be to be able to be the shoulders that the students are standing on. But we try to make sure that RE.IMAGINE is a safe space, but that we're also setting people up for success in the real world and having real conversations. We do a lot of leadership development around that. And then we also try to make sure that we're placing people in safe spaces. So we're working with employer partners who have similar backgrounds, who are not going to treat people in ways that they shouldn't be treated. And a lot of times we're dealing with youth who they could be neurodiverse, they could be from the LGBTQIA plus community, they could be have some kind of lived experience, like maybe they've experienced, the effects of the justice system, or maybe they've been in foster care. And so one of the things we really try to lean into are those wraparound supportive services, to make sure we're addressing the needs of the individual holistically. And we're not just saying like, okay, now you can work a camera, so you're ready for the real world, but saying like, hey, let's understand how trauma can inform how we react to things and talk about what triggers there might be. And let's make sure that if you need someone to talk to for mental wellness, you have that. Or we even have a socio-emotional storytelling curriculum that we do in schools that really helps build trust between teachers and their students and break down those barriers of creativity and vulnerability. So we're trying to look at all of the barriers that have existed and still exist to this day to figure out how can we dismantle them and really create a workforce that reflects the communities that we live in, where we can showcase real stories and not just repeat the same things over and over again.
Well, the optimist in me and Fred often laughs at my efforts to be optimistic and realistic at the same time. But I still gotta hope that if there's enough organizations like yours and young people are getting this kind of education, that, eventually they will be the mentor. Inevitably they'll be 50, 60 someday. And then they will hopefully, just like right now, it does feel like young people get treated a little better than when I was young. When I was young, it was literally, in the 80s in Hollywood, they literally abused people on purpose as a test.
Yeah.
They were literally like, we are going to test these kids. Yep. And we're going to say the rudest thing about them. We're going to say rude things to their face. We're going to ask them to work 16 hours and then come back after 3 hours of sleep. Yep. And we just want to, kick the crap out of them, just honestly because someone kicked the crap out of us.
Yeah.
It was a form of linear
it was a cycle of abuse.
Yeah. And, I just shared a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and make a big deal about it, but, the things that I've heard said to people, and the individuals that I saw that got it the worst were the women.
Mm. Well,
and that's what when you had said safe spaces, that's a really big deal, especially when you're talking about women in this business, and the lack of safe spaces for young women to thrive. And young women now want to be producers, they want to be directors, they want to be ADs, they want to be camera people, they want to be cinematographers. They're not there just to work in the makeup and hair and the wardrobe departments anymore. They want to be gaffers. They want to be key grips. They want to be equal to the men. And some people have a systemic problem with that.
Yeah, well, and we are trying not to even wait until folks are 50, 60, seasoned vets, if you will, but again, raise up a generation of leaders. And so last year we had a first generation immigrant who we met in Gwinnett and wanted to be a part of our post-production cohort, was kind of doing the whole YouTube University thing, but really wanted to hone her skills. And over the course of the year, not only completed the cohort, but then began teaching as an assistant teaching artist newer cohorts, and just landed a photography position with NASCAR. And then you're talking about, people wanting to be ADs and producers. I mean, that's what we have on our team now. So, folks who have gone through, I know some women or females who have gone through, our filmmaking fellowship last year. Not only do they work on our team now, but they're the ones that are ADing the productions that we do, teaching now the new cohort. So we're trying to kind of speed that up, if you will, and really show people that, hey, if we want to see the change, we've got to make it happen here. And you can be strong enough, and you can be the leader, and you can make the change. Yeah.
And that's been a mantra or a battle cry since the post-civil rights era.
Yeah.
When a lot of organizations came up during that time, whether it was like a small theater group that decided they were LGBTQ driven or female driven or of color driven and things like that. These are dynamics that have been there for quite some time. That what I'm interested too, Jessie, is that your organization, not intentionally is political, but kind of accidentally is political, especially in these times of defunding of organizations like yours. I mean, if I had all the money in the world, I'd write you a big giant check so you could do more, because I'm sure there's a ton of other things that you want to be able to do. And so as the attitudes are, and I believe temporarily shifting in our society towards organizations like yourself, what are you trying to do to combat these things in order to keep, not to coin a phrase, but to keep hope alive, to keep these things, moving forward, and they don't get dissolved and eliminated, because this is the opportunity to have great new voices out there that can completely and totally, make a difference in the world and help people to see a brighter day, which again has become politicized.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's really hard to navigate when just your personal background is politicized. And I hate that we are still in this place in this country after so many years of fighting against it. But one of the things that we're trying to do is just really to lean into the economic aspect of things. If we want to dissolve the inequality gap in economic status in Atlanta, which has a huge economic gap, then we've got to get more people in the workforce, right? And not just warm bodies, but people who know what they're doing, who can get the job done. And so that's kind of where we're coming at is look, we're serving young people who are creatives, who are passionate, who are ready to step in and do the work. We shouldn't be so concerned about how they look or how they identify. Let's just make sure that we are setting people up to fill those positions that are open. And, even hearing from one of our larger employer partners, they were saying the other day, it used to be that one, I just had all of these applicants coming in all the time. And two, if I had an application come across my desk and there was a college degree, it meant something. Now I'm not seeing the applications. And now if I see a college degree, I have no idea if it means anything. And so for us, if I can say, well, but they've gone through this, here's the training that they've gone through. Here's the portfolio that they've developed. Here's how many hours of training. Here's the certification that we've gotten them. They're ready to step in, and you can put them at the top of your, application stack, and that they're going to do a good job. So that's really where we're trying to pivot as far as our language is concerned. But we're going to do what we've always done, and that's make sure that everyone has a seat at the table. Even, going back to what you were saying about whose voice is heard, we're leaning into that now with AI. Let's hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, but let's understand what it is and what we're up against, because if we don't, then somebody else is going to dictate this for us. So we can either learn it and have our seat at the table, or we can just take what we're served. And that's not what I want for Atlanta's youth. So.
No, that's an amazing opportunity, because everyone I know who works in animation and effects has Actors, different vibe with AI, because actors just feel like, okay, they're replacing me. But most of these people, they're like, hey, I use software. It's just more software for artists to use. So if you train a new generation in how to get quality results out of AI, then those young people will be the workers of the next generation for sure in the industry.
Yeah, agreed. And AI is a tool, and if it's taught and utilized properly, it's a tremendous tool. We are all old enough to remember the synthesizer. I think we talked about this before, Jeff. People thought that was going to end the music business, and it didn't end the music business. It just created another part of the music business. Now, I think for certain people, it ended someone that was average. This is a business about people that are committed to excellence. And I say this to the young people all the time. I'm like, if you're in here thinking you're going to live with C-level effort, you're in the wrong business. Don't be in this business. But if you believe in yourself that you want to give an A-level effort every single time, and you want to try, and what you don't know, you want to learn, then this is the business for you. This is not a business for people that are average. And AI is accelerating that aspect of it because they got computers that can be average. Now, where there's a level of vision where synthesizers aren't going to help you is people that have really amazing talent that has been nurtured and they're able to truly express themselves. A great writer is a great writer, period. End of story. A great singer is a great singer. A great actor is a great actor. Even all the way down to the lighting. I mean, I know now that they have all of these funky plugins for cameras. Like, I forbid it in my office. And the young people, they hate me sometimes. They hate me. And I don't care. And I turn into the grizzled old guy. And I'm like, you're going to go over there and you're going to set that light and make sure you put a sandbag on it so it doesn't fall over and hit you in the head. And then when they see that process, and sometimes they're bored. They don't want to listen to me. I'm the old farty guy, but I'm going to show it to them anyway, and they'll hate me. And then they'll come back 3 months later and they'll say, oh yeah, we were shooting and that thing that you taught me worked really well in that moment. Yeah. Because I'm like, get out of the computer sometimes. Sometimes shoot in a way that when you shoot it, you got it and you're good and you can move on too. There's a whole process that's existed for 100 years before digital in image capture. Why are you going to abandon that? To give you one quick example, I shoot a lot of black and white digital. Jeff has seen some of it. It's been in some of his festivals. And people look at it and they're like, this is really great. It looks so good. How did you color correct it? And I'm like, I didn't color correct it. I literally put, if you take a green filter and you put it on the front of a digital camera, you will actually enhance the capacity of image capture for the digital camera because it's less focused on all of the color grading. It's focused on shadows. And it can actually shoot deeper and cleaner and give you higher contrast. Because I'm shooting something that I know that I'm going to go black and white with. Mm-hmm. And so you have to start to make, and I try to get my students too, to make radical decisions. Like during the pandemic, they hated me. I would drag them out. We're going to go film at a Black Lives Matter rally. We're going to go film at a Trump rally. Because we are filmmakers. We are storytellers. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about necessarily, we're here to make an amazing film about a Trump rally. No, you're here to learn how to talk to everybody. Because I'll never forget it. We were at a Trump rally that was downtown in Atlanta at the Capitol. They were all scared. They're all scared. They just all sort of, because they were scared of these people that they didn't agree with. And I said, you need to learn how to interact with everybody, even if you don't agree with them. And I just, they were terrified. And I marched them right into the middle of it, and we're going to talk to people and we're going to film with people. And the thing they discovered is even inside of all of that chaos and all of that disarray, there's still humanity. And I'm like, you wouldn't have gotten there if you hadn't had the guts or the chutzpah to get out there and put yourself in the middle of the line of fire. You cannot play it safe. This is not a safe business more now than ever. And that's what I really push. It looks glamorous on the surface. It looks like a lot of fun to walk on the red carpet and all this other stuff. This is blood and guts now, as far as when you're going to get out there and you're going to make films and you're going to say something. And I think you have to honor your mentors, the sacrifice that they've made for you. You have to play that forward, because that's the promise that I've always made to my mentors. And my mentors have been Black, they've been white, they've been gay, they've been trans, they've been Asian, they've been Latino. You know, one of my favorite mentors is Edward James Olmos, the actor. And he sat me down one day and he says, I want you to understand that you are me and I am you. We are one. Mm. You know, and so all of this other stuff about what you are, what I am, is of no significance in your ability to connect with other human beings and tell story.
Yeah, I love all that, Frederick. And I want to just follow up with you outside of this, because we're launching a journalism fellowship actually this fall. It's a passion project from someone who's retiring from working with CNN International for 20 years and really wanting to do true journalism with youth. So again, going back to well, nobody's going to listen to us, or how am I supposed to talk to this person that I don't agree with, or they're an elected official, then they're never going to talk to me. And it's like, no, we're going to teach you how to speak to those people, how to ask the important questions, how not to take the fluff, but to really come back and say, no, actually, you didn't answer my question, though. Yeah. And I want to hold you to this. And so I think that's something that I'd love to share more with you about, and something that I'm really excited for, because that's where I feel we need to be. It's not just let's be creative. That's wonderful. And yes, we want the creative and we want all of the stories, but let's get down to the real issues and let's see how we can start to make a change or instill that chutzpah into this younger generation so that they are not afraid to go out and ask for it.
Right. I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. You know, what I was taught by all the old people that mentored me, you know, and I grew up in the age of MTV, and, you know, we were flashy for the times as well. And they would always teach us, you are working to the point with that camera to settle it into something where you don't need B-roll, you don't need flashy edits. You have found the moment. And the only thing you have to do is make sure that you've lit it, you've mic'd it properly, roll camera, and just make sure that camera stays on that person and that person is giving you history. And I say this to them all the time when they look at old film that seems now like just, you know, it's so significant because it's archival. I said, back then, the guy shooting it, standing on the street corner in 1918 with his camera, was thinking, oh, this isn't so, whatever, it's hot or whatever, I'm cold or whatever, you know, not thinking that this matters. 100 years later, it matters. I said, every time you turn on that camera, it matters. And you need to do something significant with it. And sometimes it's not about playing around with all the plugins and all the flashy stuff and all the edits and the jump cuts and jumping over the 180-degree line, like breaking all of these rules for fun. You know, some of these rules are in place for a reason because they help you to continue to move forward and tell the story and don't distract the audience. You know, with this piece I was shooting with all of the different protests, John Lewis, before he passed away, gave me 25 minutes of his time to go in there and like interview him. You know what I did? I sat there, I lit it, made it look good, you know, turned the camera on, mic'd it, and away we go. And I had no idea what I was going to do with it or what the B-roll was going to be or how it was going to work. Later on, that started to incorporate into it. And even at that point, it's still like every time it appears, because Jeff's seen some of this stuff, it's just John Lewis and he's just talking and he's just so sincere and he's just so honest. And I do concern myself sometimes with young people and their ability to evaluate honesty when someone is being sincere. And that sincerity comes at all ages, from all types of people, you know? That's what really matters. And sometimes they miss that because the urge to make it hip or to make it flashy or to completely absorb it into a piece of electronic music that they downloaded from the internet. Like, my young people hate me. I have a music room in my office, and I make them go in there. You know what we do? We just record instruments. Sometimes it's just like, okay, you're going to beat on the cowbell, and you're going to go over at the keys, and you're going to play a couple chords, and you're going to sit there with the guitar and strum a few notes. And, you know, I don't care if it sounds like trash or you think it does. You're going to learn the power of music and how that relates to image. And so when you shoot your images, stop thinking about you're going to layer in a Billie Eilish song in the background, because one, it's illegal. Yeah, you can't do it. So, and then you're going to try to hunt on the internet for something that sounds like Billie Eilish, which is just garbage. Create on your own. Create on your own. Like I said, I drive them crazy. I get out a big dry erase board. I start writing things on a dry erase board. Sometimes I'm talking to them. I start drawing a picture of what I'm talking about. I mean, it's nuts with me, because these are the values that I was taught that I am obligated to pass along, because it's not always an instructional YouTube video. Mm-hmm. The other day, they're messing around in my $10,000 Sony camera going through the menu. And I'm like, can I help you? We know what we're doing. We don't need you. We can do that. And they barked at me in that way that they bark, that the way they're raised, that they're allowed to do that. Now, the way I grew up, if I said that, talk to my mom or my grandma like that, or even that's lights out. But I understand that. I let it go. Okay. And they farted around in my camera, got online, Googling, YouTube, all this other stuff, couldn't figure it out. And then finally, they admitted that they couldn't do it. And I said, I told you, you're not going to be, let me show you. I can show you in 5 minutes. You just wasted 25 minutes. And that's the other problem, their concept of time and time management. And I'm not saying this to be critical of them. I'm asking you, as someone who is a mentor and an educator, hey, if you got any advice?
I almost want to jump in and just say, you know, I think Jessie's advice would be to go to the RE.IMAGINE ATL website and start getting your staff from their program, because at least there's a screening process, so you don't have to start with, like, you know. But what interests me is, in a way, what I'm hearing is, I mean, what Fred does with Tomorrow Pictures, RE.IMAGINE ATL is doing, like, at a larger scale. And it does make me wonder, like, with RE.IMAGINE ATL, do people talk about expanding to other cities, like, you know, expanding the program to a Nashville that's up and coming? Or, you know, heck, they're actually, amusingly, I'm not sure, but I feel like there should be a RE.IMAGINE LA, because there's still, you know, one of my favorite stories that I've heard talking to Jessie was the young person who discovered how much they liked being a gaffer and setting lights. And it's like, you know, because I don't have to say it, but I just will, which is, not everyone gets to be that director. There are 50 to 150 people on a film set, and that's a lot of jobs. There's the payroll person. You could even learn how to become the payroll person. But my whole point is, you know, young people often just want the glory job. And I love hearing of a young person saying, I really enjoyed setting up lights and seeing how that affects what shows up on over at Video Village. Like Like and if that young person doesn't get the opportunity to see that kind of job, because I mean, I know people who have worked as script supervisors for the last 25 years, and that's like a critical job that nobody goes into film school wanting. And yet you can have a home in the sun.
It's your survival index when there you are, because you're making such a great point, Jeff, and to everything that Jessie has said too, because here we go. These young people, they go out, we're going to shoot a film this weekend and we're going to do, and then Monday you see them, they're crying. And I'm like, why are you crying? Well, we didn't get everything shot, and and then like the scenes don't match, it doesn't cut together, and the sound is bad, and there's a light stand in one of the yeah. It's hard, isn't it? It's a really good idea to listen. Even all the way down to when I was very young, I was on a set and I was working in the camera department as a camera intern, and the DP said, hey, I need you to go run and get me the 35 millimeter lens. And I actually physically ran, and I ran through the set, and I came back with the lens, and he looked at me and he said, if you ever run again on my set, you're fired. And that was it. He's like, you don't run. I say, when I say run, just move with purpose, and come straight back, and don't be distracted, and don't talk to anybody, and don't drop my $35,000, lens either, ever, or you're fired. I mean, there was absolutes in there, and I still tell kids, don't run. Nobody runs. No running. Because they'll start running. Like, I don't know what, kids are crazy. Like, I was a kid too. Like, you just start running. Somebody tells you something to do, you start running. Don't run. You will injure someone or yourself, or lose your job, and they have to understand the value of gear. Like, I was young people on this set, I lost a $1,000 Sennheiser microphone. They're not even like, when it's time to clean up, I watch them. They just throw the stuff in the bags. So then I have to say, take it all out of the bags, put it back the way you saw it before, put it back properly, safely. They throw all the stuff into the back of the van. I open up the van doors. They hate my gut. Take it all out. Do it again. And I realized to them that feels like 1975, 1985, 1995 for that matter. And it hurts them. Hurts their little hearts. Nope, I don't care. Do it again. Put this gear away properly. Just one, because you have to get in the van. You get in the van, you don't secure the gear in the back, you get in a car accident, you wake up with a C-stand arm through your head. Mm-hmm. They're not they're just not thinking about everything that's going on around them. And some of it is just purely safety measures. And I understand there's a level of sensitivity with today's youth, and you've got to be mindful of that. But at a certain point in time, it's like I said, if you sign up for the Army, you might get shot. So you got to be prepared for anything, and you got to get tough. My camera departments now, it's all women. I don't even work with guys anymore, my camera department. You know why? The guys aren't tough enough. Who's tougher than the guys? The women. Hands down. And my camera department's just as whittled all the way down to women. That's it. And I feel bad, but not really, because I'm offering a tremendous opportunity to women. So these guys that don't appreciate it, whatever. I let it go, and the women step up.
Yeah, well, and it's not that you sat down and said, I'm only going to hire women now. You just you hired people, and then you saw who lasted. But you bring up a question I have for Jessie, which is like, I assume we've avoided a nice thing about RE.IMAGINE ATL is that it's been more about opportunity for everyone. But I'm sure the demographics. Like, is it fairly gender balanced, people who jump into the program, or do you find find certain people find it more appealing at the student level or the
Yeah.
trainee level?
I mean, we're fairly gender balanced. We served just over half female, so a little bit more than the male population. We also have about 12% of the LGBTQ plus community, and then we're a large majority Black students, followed by Hispanic students, just because of the areas that we're serving. But I think that Frederick was bringing up a really good point around, one of the things that we do at Reimagine is we try not to assume. Like, we have professionals who've been doing this for years, right? So they know, they know what to do, what not to do, but we can't assume that a student does. Maybe the students never really picked up a camera. Maybe they're completely intimidated by it. So let's start by instilling the basics and giving them a safe space to make the mistakes. And then once they make the mistake, let's follow up and say, hey, well, you made a mistake. Do you understand why you made it? Do you understand why you cannot make this mistake? We'd rather you make it here while you're learning, while you're training, because once you get out into the real world, you can't make that again.
Right. I think that's great, because some of them that come out of these academic programs, they've sidestepped. You can wiggle your way out of a production class in college and say, I'm not going to take the production class. I'm going to take the theory class. And a lot of them will go 4 years and never have gotten their hands dirty. And then you're right. Yeah, you've got to, going through your program, it helps to orient them to be ready. And you can tell the difference between the ones that actually really got in there and got gritty in college versus or high school versus the ones that have not. And you're absolutely right. They sometimes just don't know. And sometimes that has nothing to do with anything that they did. And sometimes it's like they've been kind of avoiding it, and then you got to kind of auto-correct that part of their attitude too, that you got to get in there and you got to do the things that you're scared of, that you're not good at, and you got to get on a learning curve to get good at it. It's like trying to learn the piano.
Yeah. But we're doing the same thing. I mean, our students, they know, if they're working with one of our program directors, Pottis, he's amazing, but he doesn't let anything slide. I mean, same with the equipment. It's like if you pull a cord out of the bag, it goes into that bag. It doesn't go into the case. It goes into the bag, which then goes into the case. Exactly. And we drill folks on that. If one of the things we're excited to do is allow students to use our equipment for free. But in order to be able to do it, you have to certify that you understand how to set it up properly, break it down properly, how it works, that you're going to keep it organized, that you're going to take care of it. And if you bring it back to us and that cord's out of the bag, you don't get the equipment anymore. That's it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna shift the focus now because I have a question for Jessie, which is as we're getting near the end of our time, I actually am curious how you got involved with the organization and how you got started with it because my only other comment was like, God, I do wish that there was a Reimagine Los Angeles, because when I'm staffing up for the film festivals, someone broke the tripod that I've had since college. I bought this tripod in 1985, and I trusted people. Fred was actually there. I think I know which staffer broke it, but I'm like, I've had that thing. It was a really emotional. I've had that tripod for 40 years, and somebody who our nonprofit is paying I was dumb enough to bring my own equipment to fill in a gap, and then I come home and it's broken. But anyway, so forget that. Forget me wishing that I could hire your people here in LA. So they won't break my stuff. Yeah, how did you discover Reimagine, and what was your process of getting involved? Because you're interim executive director right now.
I'm now officially the executive director.
They have to update their website, but go on.
Yeah, maybe that's me. Sorry, I've got my hands in too many pots over here, but. Well, before I go into that, you were mentioning expansion before, and I mean, we would love to. First, we'd love to expand to serve all of Georgia, right? That's the first thing. But then, yes, I mean, we do have goals far off in the future of expanding to other states and serving more students. But we've got to get there. We've got to have the funding, the capacity to get there. But how I found Reimagine was kind of by like accident, I guess. I, at one point in college, was a film major, but didn't have basically let people tell me no my whole life. No, you're never going to make it. No, how many producers, directors do you think they're going to be? Starting out with my love for archaeology when I was a young girl, and then trying to go into journalism with a teacher who told me journalism was dead, and then thought I'd go into film, and then got no's there. And so just let people tell me no until I was completely deflated and thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was putting myself through college in the hospitality industry, and ended up becoming a manager and then a general manager and working my way up until eventually I was overseeing 7 different businesses and as an operations and human resources director, and had the opportunity offered to me by the owners of the organization to move into a C-level position, and thought, this is not something that I've ever wanted to do. I've never wanted to run a business or anything. I just am kind of, that lifelong learner and nerd who likes to help people. And I had spent so much time trying to help people in the business that I wasn't helping people in my community in the way that I wanted to. Because I do love to, volunteer and just be present in the community. And so I thought, I think I've done enough growing up. And what I really need to do is try to grow out and take the skill set that I have and see if I can put it to some good use for somebody who's going to need it. And so started by volunteering for a nonprofit up in Pennsylvania, offering them some free services, consulting services, and thought I really do want to find a home in a nonprofit where maybe I can be that operations person and help them get to the next level. And ended up finding Reimagine with this, focus on storytelling, which has always been dear to my heart. I was one of my majors in college was poetry, and I've always loved history and culture, which is why I was drawn to archaeology as a young girl, but and to journalism and then to film. But really felt like it was a good match, and so applied for the position, and they accepted me, and immediately saw that this organization had 10 years of a lot of heart and hard work, but maybe needed a little bit of help in streamlining systems and getting them to the next level and moving some things forward. And so I've had the opportunity to work here now for a couple of years, and I love it every day. Like even on the worst days, it's like seeing the students how they thrive, because all they need is just somebody not to tell them no, but to say no, but you can do this. I believe in you, is amazing. And so yeah, when our executive director stepped down last year, she had been with the organization since it was founded, and has 2 young girls and needed a life change. And so the board asked me if I would be the interim in the meantime. And I said, that's great, but I don't know anything about development. So I can be your operations person. I have no idea how to talk to people and no idea how to get the money, but I'm going to try to learn. And so, yeah, I guess they think that I'm doing a good job, and I accepted the position in May. Yeah, thanks.
That's terrific. That's an awesome story, and I'm so happy that you're creating a safe space for people to not be told no. I think people being told no is one of the biggest problems we have in our society at large. We tell too many people no and give them this false narrative that they are not good enough and that they should be marginalized and they can only do certain things, when every human being has the opportunity for greatness if it is offered by other human beings. I applaud you for your diligence and the commitment you have to yourself, and then to be able to impart that wisdom on others is phenomenal. It really is. I'm so sorry that I did not know more about your organization. We probably know a lot of the same people, Atlanta Film Society.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm going to say. But we can talk off the air later. And it's one of my big beefs with the ATL is that we're all so scattered.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the big differences, Jeff, between Atlanta and LA. And I know sometimes people in LA get really sour about Atlanta, but I tell people in LA all the time, at least you guys all know each other.
Yeah.
At least you guys are familiar with each other. In Atlanta, you just have no idea, where people are, what they're doing. There aren't any real consortiums that are coming together. And Jeff, you're right. Her organization would serve very well in LA, especially with development execs. Literally people over the age of 50 that are development execs should go through her program.
Well, but besides that, I think what you're saying, I think you were addressing how Atlanta, there's not a critical mass yet.
Well,
but it'll probably get there, but there's challenges. Yeah, there's challenges.
Help me.
But don't forget, in LA,
oh God, Jeff.
Those who want to criticize my beautiful, 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 beautiful home city, I have to admit they're not wrong that LA is probably a lot less welcoming in that I don't know, LA, I feel like there's more opportunities there because it's a little bit the critical mass that everyone knows each other is also a good way to just have a wall up to young people too. So
sure. But
there's no perfect world out there, it's not. So it's all good, but it is very interesting, and geez, I wish I don't. They haven't invented a cloning machine, so there's always so it's certainly I'm busy running a nonprofit myself, but boy, if I met somebody who had a fraction of Jessie's moxie, then I'd be like, hey, you should reach out to this person and get mentored on how to create Reimagine Los Angeles, because we do need to reimagine Los Angeles, and we do need to, our industry is suffering, and our city is suffering because we don't value at a larger level. We just don't value what this industry has done for the city, even though it seems like we do. We get caught up in just worshiping the stars and not realizing that what made LA great is that I grew up in a neighborhood where the guy across the street ran the microphones on the Bob Newhart show. He's a boom operator. You know what I mean? Like thousands and tens of thousands of working class and middle class jobs were supported by the entertainment industry.
And that has been forgotten in Los Angeles, in spite of the fact it's been there for over 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's gotten really tough for those folks. But a part of it is even, but it's at governmental level. So my last, I'm just going to say my last hope is that this wonderful young generation that you're both helping train, also hopefully some people who come through the Reimagine ATL process will also get involved politically somehow and tear down these barriers, and make Georgia so wonderfully purple that it leads. I don't know. I want to be the optimist again at the end here, and because I would hate for the perception of politics to smash all this potential.
Yeah. Well, and Frederick, if I can go back to your point about, Atlanta and kind of being fragmented, that's something that I'm actively trying to work against, and I'm sure you are too, and we're all stronger together. So, my goal is how do we reach out to the arts community and build those bridges for one another? And instead of working in silos, right, and trying to recreate the wheel because maybe we do this great, but now we have a student population and they want this other thing. So let's try to create it. Instead of doing that, why don't we find the other nonprofit that does that great? And let's partner together. Let's work together and let's build a bigger ecosystem with one another and share contacts with one another so that we do eventually all know one another. We are working together to really make a change in our community.
I would love that. And, that's where all of the power really is. And just unfortunately, LA has gotten the wrong message. Atlanta has gotten the wrong message that people silo this power. I'm not going to name a specific super studio that is in Atlanta, which I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. But again, siloing the power and not mentoring, not nurturing, not building up new people with new ideas within their own marketplace too, and the people that have supported that studio are not benefiting from it. As Jeff has said, he lived across the street from the guy that was the boom operator on the Bob Newhart show. We don't have that type of phenomena going on in Atlanta. The people that do make their money, they make it and they run off, Jeff. And they go, weirdly enough, they go back to LA or they go to New York. Yeah, it's the craziest thing. They're not a part of the market. The most successful people that have come out of Atlanta don't live there. I'm a big fan of Donald Glover, but he lives in New York. Sorry, I did finally just drop a body into this. So like I said, Jessie, we will talk later. But I know I've been in it too long, dude. I grew up in it. My dad has been a music artist in Georgia for 50 years. I know too much, and I am heartbroken and saddened about some of this. But I also feel a sense of hope through someone like Jessie and you, Jeff, because you just always bring the sunshine. You just see the bright side of life. And I enjoy that about you too. So this was great. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Well, Jessie, when we're done, besides the RE.IMAGINE ATL website, any links you want to send me for us to put in the show notes for people to have clickable links in the show notes of the podcast? Just send them my way, and I'll make sure that our wonderful podcast producer Karina includes them. In fact, amusingly, I did not do that for the podcast she has to release tomorrow. So while we were on, I was getting texts saying, where are the links? And I'm like, but I will do my job for this podcast. I will make sure the links are there for Karina before she asks for them. Right. See, Karina, I'm acknowledging my flaws. But anyway, so let me wrap this up. Well, Jessie Sparrow, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Fr3deR1cK Taylor, I think this makes... number 9? Are we at number 9? Mm-hmm. This is number 9.
That's awesome.
I'm tempted to throw in a Beatles reference, but that was enough. Anyone who loves the Beatles knows what number 9 means.
They already know.
They're with me. They're with me. They're avant-garde. So anyway, I will do my quick wrap-up, which is, well, first, please check out the website for RE.IMAGINE ATL. We'll also throw in the websites for Tomorrow Pictures, Fred's company. Both wonderful places. Man, I am going to have to come to Atlanta. It's I don't know when. Travel's so tough. But anyway, I wish I had time to travel, but
well, we're going to have we have our biggest event of the year, Dreamfest, in September, the 19th. So you're welcome to come to that. We're going to be at Assembly Studios. You should come down.
September's almost good for me because Sherman Oaks Film Festival, I'm about to say, is every December, and Film Invasion Los Angeles is every June. So September's halfway between them. Who knew? Then I just have to, figure out, which airline I can climb into the luggage compartment without being noticed. Climb up through the landing gear. But
that would be Frontier.
I finally got to fly Spirit the other day. So anyway, wrapping it up. Thank you everyone for listening to the Discover Indie Film podcast. If you want to learn more about this podcast, just go to discoverindiefilm.com. On social media, it's always at DIFwins. If you want to go to discoverindiefilm.org, that is the nonprofit organization that runs both film festivals that I've mentioned, Sherman Oaks Film Festival that we hold every December. It's always ShermanOaksFF.com or at ShermanOaksFF on social media. Film Invasion Los Angeles is every June, FilmInvasionLA.com, and it's at FilmInvasionLA on social media. And because I'm crazy, we're actually, next January, we launch the very first Film Invasion Lima, Peru.
Wow.
Very excited. And I got to buy my ticket to fly to Lima.
You say that every time I talk to you.
Every time. I still haven't. I've been doing the Google Flight Tracker, man. I blew it. It went down to 500 and I didn't grab it. Now it's back at 800.
You're looking for like some window of a cheap rate, like a $79 ticket.
I think if I start walking, I could be in Lima by January.
Right.
That'd be a good story. You could document it. Do a documentary about it.
I would film you walking to that festival, or even just by boat.
I want to go to that.
Yeah, you should go. Lima's awesome. I've been there. Yes.
Yeah, I love Peru. Yeah.
Everybody I talk to who's been there loves Peru.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I will go back.
And it's actually it's certainly more accessible, I think, from East Coast regions.
Yeah, Delta.
It's just due south of you, right?
Yeah, there's a direct flight from Atlanta to Lima.
Yeah. Well,
7 hours. 7 hours.
I'll share it because it's new for Jessie and very old for Fred, but it's because a wonderful filmmaker who grew up in Detroit and moved to Lima, Peru for marriage has been in our festivals twice, and last December was just looking at our closing night mixer and saying, Jeff, I love this community. I wish I had this in Lima. And I went, well, if you want a community of independent filmmakers to hang out with in Lima, I know you and trust you. I will give you all the support I can. I can't run another festival, but if you want to run Film Invasion Lima, I trust you with the name.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
He's so great. Thank you, Chevy. Mm-hmm. His name is Chevy, and he's from Detroit. Go figure.
Mm-hmm. Right. I hope that he starts illegally moving copper around the world or something. Like it's a cover for the illegal import of copper. Okay.
There you go. You pulled off something amazing, which is you pulled a more random non sequitur than I have this podcast.
Yes.
Normally I'm the king of the unrelated comment. Copper. Hear that, Chevy? Let's get rich on copper so we can donate it to RE.IMAGINE ATL and start RE.IMAGINE Los Angeles. Oh, I really, as we always joke, I'll never be a millionaire because if I was, I'd give it away.
Listen to you. You're such a good guy.
I don't think selfishly enough. But that said, thank you, Jessie. Thank you, Frederick. And did I ask people to like and subscribe? Whatever. I named everything I need to name. Check the show notes. Thank you both. This was really fun. And I hope everyone is inspired to help out these organizations and think about bringing it home to where you live. Because everywhere.
Yes.
Heck, I will shut up. Instead of adding to it, I'll just say thank you both.
Yes, great job, Jessie. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you. So are you. I can't wait to meet.
You got it. Look forward to it.
Excellent. All right.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Bye, Jeff.